everyone. I am Savia Rocks. I am the host and founder of the Ask People podcast. I am a professional photographer and I am also an award-winning writer and songwriter. Um, I'm going to talk a bit about the podcast first because I think that is the best place to start. I 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, really, I wanted to start a podcast but didn't know actually where to begin. I went online, I done so much research, and I actually got quite overwhelmed. When I did actually find podcasts that I did actually like listening to, the questions I felt wasn't resonating with who I was as a person, and I felt that other people in the world were not resonating with those questions. So I decided to take 8 or 9 months to do my own research and to get into the depths of why people like to tell their stories and what their stories mean to them emotionally, from a vulnerable point of view, from them looking in the mirror at themselves of who they are and who they want to become. From I've had people who have had cancer, I've had people who have been through so much in their lives, but I wanted to make sure their stories were emphasized in a way through an emotional connection because everything today is so much about social media, we don't always have a chance to connect in a way that we want to. I started doing the podcast in 2020, and after I was happy with the content of what I had created with the questions, when I started in 2020, I COVID came in, it kicked in. And that was a big part where the connection between personal contact between us as human beings fell apart. Um, Long and behold, I realized that there were so many people in the world longing for a connection with someone, and the power of Zoom and the power of so many other platforms took form. Luckily for the Us People podcast, it blew up so quickly. It was overwhelming, but I was abundantly humbled by the fact that so many people wanted to come on the show and tell their story in such an authentic way. Um, the podcast has been going for now almost 4 years. I have had over 200 and God, you name it, guests, and I'm humbled for the journey that it has. I always want to continue that journey, and I always want people to feel comfortable. I want people to be able to connect with me when I have an interview with them because in doing so, their story is more worthwhile for them. It's more worthwhile for the audience that is connecting with them. It's more worthwhile for me. And the reason why I say it's more worthwhile for me is because from my heart, it's I everyone educates me with every single story that they tell me. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of. Um, a lot of, like I said, a lot of the podcasts that I was listening to before, several different reasons I didn't follow the stereotypical layout of doing a podcast. Like I wanted to make it fun. I wanted you to tell your story. I wanted you to be in the beginning where you say you introduce yourself as part of the podcast. I wanted you to mess up because messing up in parts of the podcast, there's nothing wrong. I wanted you to show your vulnerability because in showing your vulnerability, it shows that you have a soul. And we all need somebody who has that compassionate soul within them to resonate with us, to show who we are as people. And in doing all those things throughout the years, I became more educated in how to make the podcast a success and people define success in so many different ways. And this is one of the questions that I talk about in the podcast. Podcast success, sorry, is not about money. It's not about, you know, materialistic things. Success to people is waking up in the morning. Success to people is dealing with cancer. Success in the morning is passing your driving test. Success in the morning is going to be able to have a job to get to work, to provide for your family and friends. And for me, the podcast is successful because of the empowerment that it gives every single individual in a different way. And I think as the years go on, I hope that sincerity continues and It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from or where your background is. That doesn't matter to me. And I'm happy to say that. It doesn't matter to me at all. What matters to me is that you have a story that you feel will resonate. And it's usually the people that are shy, that, have gone through the most things in their life, trauma, you name it. All these people are usually the people with the best stories. And that for me is golden. There is nothing better than that. So that's definitely where how I started the podcast, who I am as a person, and how much I love people for who they are with completely no judgment.